The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, we're getting some more details about these strikes on Iran. We're being told that they have wrapped up this latest round and that it lasted about 2 to 3 hours, and that the U.S. had hit a lot of command and control centers, dozens apparently hit in Iran in a pretty big strike after, of course, they were hitting U.S. forces in Jordan with ballistic missiles. And earlier today, President Trump talked about the full weight of the U.S. military coming down hard on Iran soon. We're not sure if this was it, if there's more to come, but this is the way he described a response would be coming.
In the meantime, we're going to be hitting them very hard because it's our turn to hit them. They know it's coming. They're asking us not to do it, but they tried shooting it last night. So we had 5 rockets shot going 8,500 miles an hour, and all 5 rockets were knocked down to the ground. But they nevertheless took a shot, so it's our turn. And we'll see if we get there with an agreement at some point, but we're going to hit them very hard.
Pretty incredible. Iran shooting 5 rockets going 8,500 miles an hour, and the U.S. able to intercept all 5. But saying clearly the fact that they took those shots on U.S. forces means that the IRGC still has not learned its lesson. And here is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu talking about what he thinks of the Iranian regime.
You said just yesterday that you think that a diplomatic solution is unlikely. Why do you think that you all have such different assessments of the outcome here?
Well, I don't know if it's unlikely, but I'm skeptical about Iran's mode of operandus. I mean, the method of operating. They always lie, they always cheat, and they always play for time. Could that, with sufficient pressure, diplomatic, economic pressure, could that change? Give it a try.
Is your goal still regime change?
My goal is to make sure that Iran, with this regime, doesn't have nuclear weapons. And that's something that President Trump and I both agree on, because it would be a different world.
And speaking of a different world, New York City, after just a short time with Zohran Mamdani, feels like a lifetime to many people. Of course, he's opening up these government-run grocery stores. He's also sending out those that are supposed to get the second home tax, so he says, to pay $500 million, which sounds like a lot of money, but that's not going to help all his pie-in-the-sky plans that he wants to do. And also, in addition to all of that, now he's talking about reparations, saying that New York seems to be complicit and basically they need to start paying up. So it's something he's definitely open to. And here is actor James Woods, who's also a great patriotic American, sharing what he thinks about the election of Zohran Mamdani. Take a listen.
I think the election of Mamdani, and I think in the dark of night packing of Minnesota as a Muslim enclave will be seen in the future historically as the turning point when America was gone forever. I think the election of Mamdani was the most dangerous event to happen in this country since, obviously the Civil War and slavery, horrible beyond imagination. But, in modern times, the election of Mamdani, I think America is the greatest human endeavor in the history of humankind. Redundant there. I think it's in terrible trouble. I mean, the city where the World Trade Center was and the people in it were slaughtered, destroyed and slaughtered. How you could ever allow this Muslim invasion and cancer. And you say, well, what are you? Are you prejudiced? Well, yes. I'm sorry to say it. And don't keep it, if you quote it, just that. I'm prejudiced against a religion that's really a religion that's really a political jihad that actually has in its revered text that you will kill every non-believer. You know, I'm a Catholic. I believe certain things. I don't think certain other religions, you know, share my view, but they have a right to do it. This is America, and I'd say you have a right to do it anyway.
But he also feels, as you heard, that he is probably the biggest threat to America in modern times. This democratic socialist movement, you could contend, is an enormous threat to America. I was seeing a report earlier tonight here on the Rita Cosby Show that 36 Democratic Socialist candidates overall are in the midterm elections. Of course, you got El Said, you've got Holloway in New Jersey, you've got Rob in Pennsylvania, you've got, of course, you got a whole bunch in New York, Chevalier, and a whole bunch of others. Even if they say, quote, we are not Democratic Socialists, most of them do. And if they're not, they're basically trying to pretend like they're not. In fact, who's it? El Said says he's an America candidate, a pro-America candidate. He's essentially an Make America Great Again candidate. That's a new one. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. And meantime, everybody also talking about Anthony Fauci. And it was a doozy, as we've been talking about 111 times did he invoke the Fifth Amendment and said that he would not, that if he was asked a long time ago, he said, I'll be happy to come in. I'll be happy to say all that I know. And here is Senator Ron Johnson, because he and Senator Rand Paul were sort of leading the charge clearly today in this Senate hearing. And it was downright embarrassing. It was so bad that Stan didn't even call back because he doesn't even know what to do. I told him to get a conscience when he tried to defend him. Somehow he hasn't been able to get back. Maybe he hasn't gotten a phone line or a conscience, but either one. Here is Senator Ron Johnson talking about Fauci to his face.
Dr. Fauci, I hope the American people listen very carefully to Chairman Paul's opening statement. I think it's a stunning indictment of the actions you've taken that have been so destructive to global health. I certainly understand why you needed a pardon. I certainly understand why, on the advice of counsel, you're not answering any questions, because I think it would be almost impossible for you to answer the questions truthfully without really demonstrating what you did, your culpability, self-incriminating. We have, all of us, prepared a lot. I've been deluged with questions to ask Dr. Anthony Fauci. There are so many legitimate questions that deserve answers, and now you're not willing to provide those answers.
And then soon after the hearing on Katz and Cosby, we talked to Senator Ron Johnson, and I asked him, well, there will be a vote next week to hold Fauci in contempt. What's he going to do? Listen.
And Senator Ron Johnson, real quick, obviously, would you vote to hold him in contempt if the vote happens next week?
I absolutely will vote, and the vote will happen. Now, will Democrats vote for contempt? I doubt it. So whether we pass through the Senate, I can't predict. Might be difficult because I think we need 60 votes on that. But I think it'll definitely pass through the Homeland Security Committee, because every Republican senator was there, and every Republican senator saw what the world saw, a corrupt individual who's completely unrepentant.
So it'll be interesting. It may pass through the committee, as you heard, but will it pass through the full Senate? Obviously, that's very difficult given the margins, especially if it's the 60, because it seems like the Democrats are circling the wagon and wanting to give Fauci Hero of the Year award. Maybe put him on another InStyle magazine cover or People's Sexiest Man Alive Part 2. They don't even want an answer to this. I mean, many of them, I'm sure, had loved ones who died, family members, neighbors, kids at school. Aren't they curious to know the real story? What he was maybe putting in his diary versus what he was saying publicly? 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Alice in Ohio. Line 4. Go ahead, Alice.
Hi, Rita. Fauci is an evil, evil little man. Governor Beshear in Kentucky used the state police to block roads so that people could not get to church to worship services on Sunday. He sent the state police around to the parking lots in churches to take down license plate numbers, and these people were cited. But he let the liquor stores to remain open. And this affected everyone's life, some in large ways, some in tiny ways, but there are some people who will never get over it. He is disgusting. He needs to rot someplace in jail. Put him in solitary and let him rot there.
Well, you know what, Alice? And the fact that he sits there at this point unscathed and also that he clearly knew. I was waiting, is there going to be a moment, like even the senators said, is there anything you want to apologize for? Is there anything maybe you could have gotten better in hindsight of time, even giving him the benefit of the doubt? And he wouldn't even go there. He just hid behind, I'm not going to testify, which to me made it look really bad for him, really bad. And I believe the committee will probably hold him in contempt just because there's more GOP members on the committee, given the dynamics. But then you have to wonder about the full Senate, the 60 votes. If it is the 60 vote threshold, I don't think any Democrats today, they came out acting like he's the best thing since sliced bread, Alice. I mean, that to me is also reprehensible because guess what? This should not be a partisan issue. I mean, COVID was not a partisan pandemic. It shouldn't have been. In some ways it became it, with the information and the way the vaccines and so many of those questions. But in terms of getting to the details, that should be something we all want, right, Alice? If there's nothing to hide, he should have testified today. He owed it to the American public, and he owed it to the families, especially who lost loved ones, and many people who are still dealing with a lot of health problems as a result of whether it's vaccine information. The other thing that really got me mad, Alice, sorry, you got me fired up tonight, is that in his diary, he talks about how he himself experienced a blood clot, that he had problems that he believes happened around the time that he got the vaccine. And yet he didn't tell that to the American public. Alice, that is horrific. He himself was having health problems around the time he got the vaccine, and he didn't say anything publicly. Why didn't that raise a huge red flag? That is reprehensible. Alice, your thoughts on that?
That man does not have a conscience, and there's a word for people who don't have a conscience. He needs to rot in hell. And I'm even wondering, did he really have a blood clot? He doesn't care about other people. He cared about himself. Who wants to see this little man on InStyle magazine? All the money that he made more money. His salary was more than the president of the United States, and people were dying. People could not say goodbye to a parent, to a husband, a wife. There were significant days in a young person's life. There was no prom. There was no graduation. Schools were closed. And you know what? In Cincinnati, the public schools were closed, but the Catholic schools remained open, and they were successful. No one caught it.
Well, and you saw that in other school districts and other areas around the country. Often it was that sort of natural immunity, that herd immunity,
yes.
That people were talking about, and especially in young people that were healthy. And the fact that he had this health issue, or so he says in the diary, but it seems like he seems to be pretty honest in his own diary, and yet doesn't share that with the public. That's all, in my mind, part of this cover-up, because he didn't want people to know, oh, wait, maybe there's a problem that he knew about. And he clearly also knew in the regard to the funding at NIH I mean, that's just really stunning. All the different history of studying gain of function, then they farm it out to EcoHealth, then it goes to the Wuhan lab. It doesn't take a second grader to figure out it's right down the street from the, quote, wet market. And he even was aware that it may not have been, obviously, at the wet market. So he didn't tell people. Many people believe, and clearly the senators believe this, because he didn't want to implicate himself in nefarious funding or nefarious activities, because clearly gain of function is very dangerous, which is why he was doing it in another country and not doing it in America. And so he didn't want to be tied to something that clearly was the worst, pandemic in modern times. And that is just, it's appalling. It is appalling. And I find it infuriating to look at him today, and him just taking the fifth. I hope this is not over, and I hope we all get to the truth and we get to the bottom of it. Alice, thank you very much. And everybody, we're going to continue right after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's continue with your calls. Also, send me a comment on Twitter at Rita Cosby. I often read them on the show. Let's go to Louie in New Jersey on line 2. Go ahead, Louie, your thoughts tonight.
Hey, Rita. How you doing?
I'm good. What do you think?
All right, first of all, as an Italian-American, my grandfather, I saw him first cry when Antonin Scalia got appointed to the Supreme Court.
Right, so what does that have to do with Fauci?
What it has to do with Fauci? Because this first time in my life, I said, thank God my grandfather's not alive, because he would have cried because what he did today.
Yeah, I you know what, Louie? I agree. I thought he was so shameful, the way that Fauci conducted himself, as smug as he was. And then he brought the attorney who tried to argue, and then he sat right next to him. And it was interesting because Rand Paul said, you can't sit right next to him. You get out of here, attorney. He kicked him out.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And we are talking about Dr. Fauci pulling a fast one today, saying, I'm invoking the fifth. I don't have to answer anything. See ya, Congress. The arrogance of that man. Well, he was coddled, and I wanted to go back to the height of the pandemic when he was on almost like every TV show that you can imagine, every media. He had also been on radio, too. And in fact, John Catsimatidis did a great interview with him. And there, most of the media, John asked some tough questions, asked a lot of interesting probing questions. But there are a lot of members of the media that gave this guy a free pass. And it gave him, clearly, a big head. Listen to the love fest that was expressed on Dr. Fauci, that he was the God of all gods. This is back in 2021. Take a listen.
The single most respected voice in the pandemic. It's Dr. Anthony Fauci.
The man who's become known as America's doctor. The nation's top infectious disease expert, Anthony Fauci.
You are seen to many as a superhero.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, American hero and New York Yankee fan.
You've done so much for this country in terms of this crisis, so I really appreciate your insight.
Who better to give us answers that we can trust than Dr. Anthony Fauci?
The perfect person to answer our questions today. Joining us now, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, appreciate your candor.
Dr. Fauci, appreciate the candor.
We appreciate your service to this country.
We appreciate your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Greatly appreciate your service to America.
Thank you for your 37 years of service, I believe, to 7 presidents, and thank you for your work over the past year.
The great news is you're sticking around in the Biden administration. We are so grateful to you, Dr. Fauci, for everything you do.
Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you very much for everything that you do.
Thanks so much for the work that you do.
Thank you very much for the reassurance and, as always, for all of your public service. Thank you. Dr. Fauci.
Thank you for all your guidance this past year, and it's greatly appreciated.
Dr. Fauci, on behalf of all of our viewers here in the U.S. and around the world, thanks very much for doing what you're doing. Thanks very much for joining us. Please thank your entire team as well. We are all grateful.
Get your rest because we need you.
You are one of the busiest scientists in the country right now. It is an honor to have some of your time to help us understand what is going on. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, so we appreciate your time, sir.
We need people to continue to have faith in science. So thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you for being straight with us. Thank you for being able to come on. You will always have this show as a platform.
Sir, whenever you can be here, we'll have you. It's always an honor to have time with you. Thanks for being here.
It's good enough for you, sir. It's good enough for me and my family. So thank you, Dr. Fauci.
Dr. Fauci, thank you for keeping it straight. Thank you for fighting the good fight.
I am sincerely appreciative that you are not walking away from this post. You make us smarter and safer and better every day. Thank you so much, Dr. Fauci.
Oh, dear.
Wow, he sounds like he was really having a great time mucking it up as the world and certainly America was in crisis. And today, after he said, I have nothing to say on advice of counsel, well, here is Senator Richard Blumenthal, the great war hero from Connecticut, who said, boy, Fauci is one of the greatest Americans ever. He sounds like he knows Stan. Take a listen.
Put aside all the flowery rhetoric that we hear in the United States Senate. Dr. Fauci has saved lives, as have public health officials in the United States and throughout the world. And today, we are demeaning and degrading their life-saving service.
You're kidding me. Poor Dr. Fauci. Poor, sweet, wonderful, lovely Dr. Fauci, who was aware of gain-of-function research and never told anybody. Who had a blood clot around the time of the vaccine and never told anybody. Who was aware that it didn't start in a wet market and didn't tell anybody. I guess he just, somehow left all those points out. Wow, it just must be coincidence. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Stan. Oh, Stan's back here. Line 2 from Forest Hills. Stan, what do you got?
First of all, I got disconnected, so that's no problem. Is that all you have? Is that all you have? But Blumenthal said is all right. By the way, all those people, they're supposed to say that. But did Fox say that? I think Fox's people said that too. He's okay, blah, 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 blah. That's, during that time, he was the guy. And as far as I'm concerned, he is the guy. You still think it, Stan. Nothing. Stan, I want to hear anybody say he killed people like Alice in Stupidland.
Yeah, hang on 1 second, Stan. His own diary, his own words say that he was leaning towards it being done essentially in a lab. We know that he was aware that NIH, of which he oversaw, had funds that went to this Eco Health Alliance that then went to the Wuhan lab, which just happens to be right down the street from the wet market. I guess that's a coincidence.
What does that prove?
And then he withheld that he had a blood clot around the time he got a vaccine.
Why is that important that you need to know he has a blood clot?
Oh, we definitely do.
Business.
We definitely do because he was pushing vaccines on everybody else, Stan. And there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people, and I know people who feel that they have health problems as a result of those vaccines.
Let me tell you something.
How dare you, Stan? How dare you, Stan? There were 1 million people that died in America, and you are an apologist for this man. Shame on you.
No, don't shame on me. My sister, her husband, had taken the shot, and he developed things from the shot. I know that for a fact. But let me say this.
So you're not upset that Dr. Fauci, the head guy who had all the information, who people were relying on in a time of crisis?
There are always side effects to some extent. Not every. We had to say
Stan,
millions of people,
you just said it yourself.
Did.
Wait, Stan, hold on a second. Who in your family had it again? Who did you just say?
My brother-in-law he took the shots, and then he started to develop some things. There might have been side effects. Not everybody.
That might have been, right? What the heck? Might have been. Why don't you call your brother-in-law and then call me back and see how he feels?
You don't deal in the real world.
Maybe you'll get a more honest assessment, Stan. Maybe you should call your brother-in-law and see if he's happy that this guy took the fifth and withheld that he had a blood clot, because he didn't say to Americans, maybe you should hold off. I just had a horrible reaction. And guess what? People might have even been forgiving if he said, you know what, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I didn't realize. He's not even backtracking one iota. He wants to be back on People's Magazine, Sexiest Man Alive,
That's
Part 2, 3, and 4.
Rita. You're
That's
not
all
talking
he's
about
interested
that was
in.
saved by
That is all.
Rita.
You know what, Stan?
You're living
You
in
don't
a
know.
fantasy.
Stan,
You'll
you
never
have
give
to
the guy
wonder,
credit for
Stan,
nothing.
what if he had come forward to begin with and said, you know what? There's this lab right down the street. We got to get a handle on this. This is what it is. Maybe scientists all over the world could have put their heads together and figured it out. And then if he had said, maybe the vaccine causes the blood clot that I had, maybe that's what it is. America, beware. Maybe I misled you by accident. I'm even giving him the benefit of the doubt. But he didn't do that, Stan. And his own words are absolutely damning. And Stan, I think you need to call your brother-in-law.
No, I don't need to call my brother-in-law.
You call your brother-in-law. Here's what you got to do. You call your brother-in-law, and then you call me back tomorrow night. Why don't you call me with your brother-in-law?
You don't want to deal in reality. You want to crucify this guy.
Yeah, because guess what? He deserves it, Stan.
No, he does not. He
deserves it. He deserves it. And you know better. Stan, why don't you call your brother-in-law?
I don't have to.
Why don't you both call me? Why don't you both call me back tomorrow night? Because that'll be an interesting conversation. And I can't wait to hear it. Have him call and say, I'm Stan's brother-in-law. And yeah, I had problems after the shot. But boy, Stan is right. That guy is a Nobel Prize winner. That one I want to hear. That will be a doozy, Stan. We'll talk tomorrow night, Stan. Can't wait to hear that one. Let's go to Tony in Clifton. Tony, I don't know what Stan's on tonight, but go ahead.
Well, I don't think we should give the Nobel Peace Prize to someone who's responsible for overseeing a pandemic where 7.1 million people, really up to 36 million worldwide, they don't know definite, could have died. That's not a good reason to give an award out. And you know what? Anthony Fauci did the game of function research, which was very, 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 very dangerous and should never have been authorized.
And he knew it. That's why they moved it from the states. And that's why even Obama urged caution and said, maybe we shouldn't be engaged. This is like playing mad scientist. And yet Fauci continued it. He continued it at the NIH, and he didn't want anybody to know through this EcoHealth Alliance, farming it out to China, and never once told the president of the United States or the American public. What does that say to you, Tony? I can't wait to hear from Stan's brother-in-law. I hope he calls tomorrow night. I think he'll give me a little different answer than what Stan, that hogwash we just heard.
Well, listen, Rita, with Senator Rand Paul in charge of the Homeland Security, which, remember, at the time it was our friend Gary Peters who was in charge of Homeland Security, which was responsible for immigration and for the overseeing of the vaccine. He was the chair. He's still on the committee. And if you looked at him, I don't know if you saw pictures of him, he looked very leery because he didn't have too much to say, because he didn't have anything to say ever when Anthony Fauci was doing all of this. We were under lockdown and nobody stopped it. And as Senator Moreno said,
and by the way, Gary Peters, you know what? I noticed, Tony, it's interesting. He's not running again. Remember, he's leaving. So he doesn't have to have his little political games like the rest of these folks do, which I don't know how they think it buys them a chit in the midterms to defend Anthony Fauci. Somehow that helps them. I mean, that's, you know what's so disgusting, Tony? This is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democrat issue. This is an American issue. And every single American should care about this. Every single American. This is not like a partisan issue. This is not where it should be used for political gain. This is when he should have come out and said, here's what we know. And I'm even giving him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he didn't know at first. He clearly knew about the Wuhan lab because he helped with the funding of it. And he wants us to believe that we're, that just has to be coincidence. What is that? 1 in 30 trillion chance that it would happen to be down the street from a lab that is actually doing that? That is nonsense. And that guy needs to tell the American public and people like Stan's brother-in-law the truth. Let's go to Joaquin in Philadelphia, line 2. Go ahead, Joaquin.
Good evening, Rita. Actually, it's Pennsylvania. I'm nowhere near Philadelphia.
Oh, sorry. They put Philly. I should know that by now. I'm sorry, Joaquin.
No,
I'm all fired up about Stan, so go ahead.
Yeah, no. First of all,
Joaquin, we're losing you.
Hello?
Yep, there you are. Sorry,
yeah?
I don't know what's going on. Go ahead, Joaquin.
All right, yeah, no.
Maybe Dr. Fauci's trying to block the lines. Go ahead.
That could be very possible because you know something? I followed the alternative health, movement for a long time, and there were so many lies about COVID. And from right off the bat, I already knew it. I did not mask. I did not social distance. I had people at my house. Obviously, I put the mask on just to get into a store or whatever, and I took it off afterwards. I knew it was all a big lie. And, the proof is in the pudding. This is really, it was an attempt to control us. And not only that, a big push for the pharmaceutical industrial complex because ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine actually worked. Okay, and every doctor I've gone to, and I ask them about ivermectin, they say, "Oh, it's horse paste." No, the guy got a Nobel Peace Prize for inventing, the ivermectin.
And by the way, did you hear one of the things that they brought up is that publicly he was poo-pooing the ivermectin, privately was well aware of some of the benefits, if you will, or the potential benefit. And I don't want to get into. I want to stay focused more on Fauci. So let's go back to Fauci, Joaquin. Okay.
Well, yeah, no. The guy is just crooked as heck, and the Wuhan lab was funded. I believe the funding started under the Obama administration.
Yes, and then they wanted to cancel it because they said it's too dangerous, and Fauci took it upon himself to continue it.
Right, and you see the problem is that there's just big money in this stuff, So this guy is lying through his teeth. But most people, like Stan, they think you go to the doctor and whatever they give you, it's gonna help you. No, that even the numbers of people that died. When my wife's sister died of cancer, my wife was adamant that there was going to be nothing put on her death certificate that said anything about her having COVID. Okay. And there were many people that were, that died, but they died in accidents, and they died of all kinds of other causes. And they were, their death certificates were labeled as COVID deaths. And then you consider that, places were being paid by the government to put people on ventilators, and so this was just, it's just unimaginable if this actually happened in America.
It is. And then remember, we didn't even have, a lot of the PPE stuff too. Remember, we were short on masks and we were short on a lot of the stuff. And guess where? It was in China. A lot of that we were relying on. Remember all of that stuff. There was so much stuff going on back then and so many serious questions that still remain unanswered to this day. That we need to find. And remember China, they were allowing flights. Remember all the reports that were allowing flights out of the country, but not internally in the country. So they were aware, they knew, it seems, and they've never even been held accountable either, guys. So there's a lot here. And the American public deserves to know. Let's go real quick to Anthony in Long Island, line 5. Go ahead, Anthony, your thoughts.
I just wanted to say Stan's a putz. Marion Gruber and Philip Krause from the FDA resigned because of Biden administration's government overreach. They were putting diapers on babies' faces. They were injecting our babies with this proprietary ingredient. We all eating organic food, and Fauci started shooting our babies up with some concoction he developed in a laboratory, and the whole thing was a moneymaker, and it was to upset the Trump administration and the entire country, the world. I mean, these people. Lara Logan was blacklisted because she compared Fauci to Joseph Mengele.
By the way, Anthony, you're bringing up some great points about also the blacklisting too. Anybody who sort of spoke out, they were banned. They couldn't hear. You hear even today people saying, "Oh, I think it was RFK Jr." talked about how he lost all these followers on Twitter suddenly, and he was blacklisted, all these things if they spoke out or questioned. And at that point, and that's why even to this day, I've even said, Fauci, obviously, I believe he made enormous mistakes. And if you look at his diary compared to what he said publicly, I believe he's a liar. I mean, I believe he's telling two very different stories. And the American public deserve to know the truth. All the kids, like you bring up, whose lives were upheavaled. There are so many questions here. Anthony, thank you. You brought up some superb points. You got to call back again. And everybody, we're going to continue your calls right after the break. 1-800-848-9222. Boy, Stan has me fired up and everybody else tonight. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Concord, New Hampshire, where every day a 100-year-old World War II veteran Bill Peterson drives himself from his home to a local church, and he prays for his brothers in arms that he served with in World War II. Now, just recently, the VA established a centenarian recognition program to honor veterans who have turned 100 with a letter from the VA secretary and a commemorative coin in recognition from the VA. Well, veteran Peterson just received one following his church's Sunday Mass. And Kevin Forrest, who's the director of the local VA, says, "Our nation honors your service to the United States Navy during World War II. You are part of the nation's greatest generation for your legacy of patriotism and honor." And by the way, veteran Peterson joined the U.S. Navy in 1943 at 17 years old and was sent to the Marshall Islands in the Pacific Theater. And everybody, America's heroes need your help. And to do so, all you have to do is send $11 a month to the Great Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They are the best, supporting America's military and first responder heroes. Donate just $11 to the Great Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to Norm real quick on line 3. Go ahead, Norman.
Hi, Rita. I'm not going to debate COVID. I was always skeptical of, is this a real disease? I mean, for me, I remain skeptical. It changed my life. Anyway, Anthony Fauci has always given the message to retreat, to hide. Bobby Kennedy Jr. said that George Washington, at the height of the Revolutionary War.
Hey, Norm, sorry, we got to go, but call us tomorrow night. Finish that thought tomorrow night.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?